If you want to say something is in the car, you probably know that you use the preposition the. And if you want to say that the car is on the street, you use the preposition na. But if that's the case, then why do we say if something is in the library, we use the, and if we say something is in the post office, we use na? Using the and na is a little bit different in Russian than it is in English, and it confuses a lot of beginning Russian students. Today, I'm going to give you several easy tips to help you speak better Russian by using these prepositions correctly. Давайте начнем. Well, let's get started. Всем привет. Меня зовут Jared, и я делаю русский язык легким. Hey everybody, my name's Jared and I make the Russian language easy. This is the second of a 4-part series on the prepositional case. I'll link to the first video down below. Be sure and subscribe to the channel so that you can get notified when the other 2 videos come out. Let's start with the preposition the. I've grouped these into several different kind of categories that help me remember how to use them correctly. The first kind of category is I call it places where I can live or geography, whichever one of those work better for you. And I like to start out very broad and kind of make a picture and drive down to the very micro. At the very broad end, it's the world. So we would say, Я живу в мире. I live in the world. And then we go to continent, and then we go to a state, and different countries have different words for grouping how they group their country into different subsections. Whatever that word is, that's would also go into the preposition. So in America, we happen to use states. In Russian, they'll use an oblast or a rayon. So after states, then we have cities, and then we have apartment buildings. And then we have apartments, and then we have rooms. You see how that kind of helps you easily remember it? Start out big, work down small. World, continent, state, city, apartment building, apartment, and room. Not too hard, right? Hey, if you guys are getting something out of this video, I'd appreciate it if you give me a like there. That kind of says thank you to me, and it also helps distribute the video to other people, so you'll be helping others learn how to speak Russian. Let's go on to the next one, and that has to do with time. And again, I like to start out big and work down small. It helps me remember it that way. Starting out big, the first one would be centuries, then years, then months, then we go to days, hours, minutes, and seconds. One other little thing I group into there is a time period in someone's life. So if you wanted to say in their childhood, then that would be в детстве. The next one is what I call places where you can study. And that would include a university or an institute. They kind of use those terms interchangeably a little bit. There's universitet and institut. The university is technically one step higher than an institute over in Russia. You can figure that out later. That's not what this lesson is about, but there's 2 different words there. The next one is biblioteka. That's library, right? So a university, an institute, a library. And then the other one to remember is kids' grades. So if you wanted to say she's in the 5th grade, you would say the whatever grade she's in there. Just with kids. Once you get to the university, then we have to use na. We'll get to that in just a minute. Those were the words of how to study. And to me, that's kind of, no one's huge on study. So the next one I say is things that we like to do or play words. And those include if I'm going to the club, if I'm going to the theater, or if I'm going to the museum. And then there's 2 others, which I just kind of throw into a miscellaneous category, which you do hear quite a bit. And that is the store or the hospital, magazine, and больница. That's pretty much it for va. Not too hard, right? Let's go ahead now and do na. Again, with na, I've grouped them into a couple different categories, and the first one is water. And again, I like to start out big, work down small. Just helps me picture it in my mind a little bit there. So in regards to water, the first one is seas, like the Black Sea, then lakes, rivers, a pond, and a puddle. I also throw in there pools and bathtubs. Those also get the preposition na. The next one you have to give me a little bit of liberty on because it works in my mind. I think it's going to work on your mind. In America, when we give an address, we may say East 123 Main Street. In Russia, they don't really use the Northeast Southwest vernacular there, but using that American vernacular, it'll help you memorize this next little subsection here. And I call that addresses. Anytime you're referencing one of the directions on a compass, north, east, south, or west, those always get na. Street names and streets always get na. And then if you want to say that he lives on a certain story or a floor of a building, like the third floor or the third story, that also gets the na. And then squares, like Times Square. Now, squares in America aren't as big a deal as they are over in Russia, but in Russia, pretty much every city has a main square. Think of Red Square. Okay, there's three here that are a little kind of different, but I group them into a category called industrial, and that is the word for Zavod and Fabryka. Okay, those both mean industrial complex or a factory, something like that. And then the other word is pochta, post office. The post office here in America, I think, is kind of a mess. It loses a lot of money and it's not hugely efficient. So in my mind, I just kind of group that into the industrial category. It's the next group that get na are what I call the kind of the boring or the stuffy words, things that you don't really like to do. Those include a meeting, a lecture, the opera, or a church service. Now, I know some of you are going to get on me for including opera in that category. I'm not a huge opera fan, so I put that in there. Okay, the next set of words is what I group into what I call education. And you'll remember under V, we said institute or universitet. Those are both education related, but those are actual physical buildings. So that's kind of how I differentiate it. If you're in a physical building, then in education, you get V. But in this case, fakultet, which is like your major. So if you want to say I'm majoring in biology, you would say biologiczny fakultet, biology fakultet, or the biology major. That's how I interpret it. The other one there is university. Kurs is the word. So if you want to say it's like a 100 level class, ja na pierwszym kursie, I'm on the first class is how they would say that. The other one here is language. It's really easy, but you hear it all the time, especially as a foreigner. And that is literally language. You speak na some sort of language. Я говорю на русском языке. I speak in Russian language. Я говорю на английском языке. I'm speaking in the English language. Okay? Anytime you're talking about language, you use na. And then two miscellaneous words for you here. Ostrov, which means island. And I group that in with the water words because to me, an island is surrounded by water. So when we were talking about seas, lakes, rivers, all of that, I kind of just put island in there, but I get that it's not a water word, so I didn't include it there. And then the other one is week. Not like I'm too weak, but 7 days on the calendar, that kind of week. That also gets the preposition na. Okay, I think that's really it. It's actually pretty easy. I'm going to put all of these subsections and the individual words down below in the show notes so you can copy and paste those into your notes or whatever you're using to speak Russian better. If you found value out of this video, keep in mind I've got 2 more coming, so be sure and subscribe to the channel. I've also got a free cheat sheet which talks about the prepositional case. I'll link to that down below. You can go download that and that'll help you. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Ну хорошо, это все. Спасибо и увидимся.